welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Today I wanted to talk about language learning, more so like my experience or like what I'm doing with language learning. In schools I never really had success with language learning. I find that I do a lot better if I'm self-studying, because I feel like then it's like really like I personally want to be doing it. I don't need to be doing it for a grade. I don't need to be doing it for anything else other than the fact that like I personally want to do it, whether that be for fun or for wanting to travel there or for the fact that I want to plan on living somewhere, which is why I am learning the first language that I want to talk about today. I am learning Korean, and that is like, I guess you can say like my big language. It's the language that like my main focus is on. The first time I went to Korea was 2017. So yeah, 2017. And so I learned like a couple of phrases and things like that. The first time I was there, nothing really important. I did learn how to read Hangul in 2017. And then I went back for a semester and I learned a lot more. And I think I retained a lot more than I thought that I did, because I'll see something and I'll remember it without realizing that like I knew what it was. But then I kind of fell off the wagon with the language learning, with learning Korean. And about 8 months ago, I would say, no, that's a lie. A little over a year ago, actually, I started taking Korean lessons, getting tutoring by a friend, and she's been phenomenal. She's helped guide me so much, and just given me a chance to speak Korean and conversate with her, because that's a really hard part in learning a language, is finding somebody that speaks that language to conversate with. But due to quarantine, I've been doing a lot of self-study recently, and I do find that that works for me just as well, even if not better. So about 8 months ago, I started using Talk to Me in Korean's website, which their company, I will link everything that I talk about down below, as long as I can find the exact copy of the books and things like that. I started using the website about 8 months ago, consistently, used it a couple times before. And it's great if you're learning to learn Korean, but they also have a book system, which I use. This is level 2. I took the test that they offer to figure out what your level is before you go ahead with it, and I tested into level 2, but I went ahead and started with level 1 as kind of like a refresher course, and I did level 1 online and with the books before moving on to level 2, which is technically the level that I should have been with. But I hadn't really studied it as well as I would have liked in a while, so went ahead and started with level 1. So if you're coming back after a break, I do suggest starting with like the level before it suggests, kind of as like a refresh course. But these books are fantastic. This is the textbook, what it looks like, and this is the workbook. The textbook has just the dialogue and the notes, as well as a sample dialogue and a quick exercise, whereas, please ignore my handwriting, the workbook has a lot more exercises and things like that. The second thing with learning Korean that I want to talk about are the supplemental books that Talk to Me in Korean has. Yes, I'm still talking about Talk to Me in Korean. It's a fantastic resource. Please use it if you're learning Korean. But the supplemental books are really, really cool too. I have like the first 500 verbs that somebody should know, and those books are great. But the ones I'm going to show you today are the 1,100 short and useful Korean phrases for beginners. And it's great because it goes through just kind of all the endings that you could possibly have, as well as some really, really common phrases that have those endings or that sentence structure or something like that. So this is a really handy book. And my last book that I want to talk to you about from Talk to Me in Korean is My Daily Routine in Korean. And it's such a cute book. So what it does is it shows you this, and then you flip the page and everything is translated. So what I do is I try and figure out what the vocab or like the sentence is by the image, and then I move ahead. So I'd highly suggest Talk to Me in Korean books. They are a great resource if you're trying to learn Korean. I do have another book that's not from Talk to Me in Korean, and this one is Let's Speak Korean. Learn over 1,400 expressions, quick and easy. It looks like this, and I got this one on Amazon. But it's just, honestly, this was a spur of the moment quarantine purchase, but I do really like it because it has phrases. Usually when you get a phrase book, it's all about travel, but this one has like school phrases and just some like quick things that I'm going through and trying to kind of like memorize. They have like the typical travel ones, like at the restaurant, on the plane, things like that, but they also have like phrases about emotions and things like that. So this is also just a quick, fun, extra thing to use for learning Korean. Or if you're just trying to learn Korean for travel, I would suggest this. I can't hit my nose. I would suggest this book over like the pocket phrase books, because this one is a little more natural than those. Next for I also want to talk about social media aspects of learning a language, especially Korean. I don't really use social media for any of the other languages that I learn. No, okay, I had to think about that. But social media is a great resource. I follow a number of Koreans that teach Korean on Instagram. Korean Hun. I don't know if it's Korean Hun or Korea Hun, but I will link it down below. So Korean and Korean Oni are some of my favorites. I've been following Korean Oni for like 2 years now. But those are some of my like go-to learning Korean people that I follow on social media. I also, in my previous video about language learning, I talked about an app called Drops, and I am still using that app. Just a great quick, if you're not doing anything, and you can choose to have the pronunciation like verbally, basically out loud, or you can turn it off so you can do it in public, which I kind of go back and forth. If I'm in public, I turn it off. If I'm sitting on my couch, I turn it on. So Drops is great. You can choose to learn other languages on Drops. I think they have all of the languages I'm going to be talking about today. I've only used it for Japanese though, as well. So I need to explore it with the other 2 languages. But it's a great resource for quick vocab memorization, and it's fun because it's like games and stuff. So that's really good. I do have a new app that I'm still exploring, but so far I like it, and I'm using it for 3 of the 4 languages I'm talking about, and that's Lingodeer. I'll bring it up again, I'm sure, but I can't say a ton about it because I just started kind of playing with it, but so far I do seem to like it. Okay, the second language that I want to talk about, and I guess you could say the second, like the one that I'm focusing on the second, I kind of did it in order of like the languages that I was focusing on the most, Korean being the most I'm focusing on because I do want to go over there and teach English and live for a time. So that is kind of like my main focus, language learning. But the next one that I am studying the most would be Thai, and that did start at the beginning of quarantine. I've loved Thai dramas and things like that for years, for a couple years. I don't know why I said for years. But I just started to have even more of an interest in the language and the culture, and I thought, you know what, I have the time, let me do something that I've thought about doing for a while and just kept putting it off. So I finally did it. It is a lot harder to find materials for learning Thai than it is for Korean. I will put that out there if you're interested in learning Thai. I'm still trying to figure out what works best for me, and just kind of how to find resources and things like that. But I'm going to share with you what I'm currently doing, even though it's not a ton. I did find this on Amazon though, Master the Thai Alphabet. Obviously you can tell I haven't gotten to the back yet, but it is literally just a writing workbook to go through and learn the writing. I will say though, this is hard in the sense of you still don't have the pronunciation of all the different letters, and they have some wonky pronunciation. I don't want to say wonky, but they have quite a few characters that sound to me like the same, and so I'm still struggling with getting all of that back, or all of that down. So I will say that I do rely more on the romanization than I would like to currently, but I'm going to work on that. I do want to talk about 2 books. This one is just a phrase book, but it comes with a CD at the back, and that is helpful. I have a ginormous CD player sitting in the bottom of my closet, because that was the only one we had in our house. But this is just great. It goes over just the typical like phrases and times and locations and cultural notes and places and present tense and past tense and things like that. It's kind of just like a quick overview of the entire language. And I got this one on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Most of my books came from Amazon, if we're being honest, because quarantine, didn't go out much. And then this one I just got recently and I haven't started it yet, but it is supposed to help me learn how to read Thai in 10 days. I'll do a book review on this, there we go, see if it actually helped. But yeah, so like, it looks really cool and it looks like it's gonna be extremely helpful. I just haven't started it yet, but that's it. And I do also use YouTube as a resource for Thai. I follow a YouTube channel called Cook Thai, Learn Thai, and I love the lady that does those videos. She uses TV shows as well, like she'll translate phrases and stuff from TV shows as well as like do grammar points and like numbers and things like that. And I just find it really helpful. Her videos are short, simple, straight to the point. And I just watch those and take notes, and that's been like the most helpful like online resource that I've been able to find. But if I find more resources and things like that, I will upload some stuff onto my Instagram, which is Finding the True Me. That's the Instagram that I use for YouTube. The third language that I want to talk about today is Chinese, and I did just start kind of getting an interest in this during quarantine. I've been watching a lot of Chinese dramas, and I have friends from China, and so I was kind of like, you know what, I would love to learn some phrases, or at least to be able to say a couple of things. I found this at Barnes & Noble. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a SparkNotes thing, and I like the content. I like how much information there is just on this like little 3-piece folder, but pronunciation. I'm always afraid that I'm not pronouncing anything right because I don't know exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. It has the romanization, but that's still not extremely helpful when you're learning an Asian language because they pronounce things differently. Like, it's part of learning the language. So I am still struggling with trying to figure out how exactly these things are pronounced. Just gotta toss it to the side. But I did also recently, and by recently I mean like last week, order an Easy Chinese phrase book, and I have another book on the way, which I guess I could have filmed this video when I had that book, but it's like Mandarin Chinese Learning Characters Volume 1. I don't think that's exactly right, but I heard about the book through a YouTuber that I am subscribed to, and I will link her YouTube channel below, because she is studying, I think she's studying the exact same languages that I am, but another one as well. She's learning like a number of languages, but she's also been studying them for longer than I have been. She's been a great resource for me as I've been figuring out things about language learning. So if you're interested, she has a lot of good tips, and she also does a lot of study with me. If you'd be interested in seeing that from me, let me know. But back to this book. But it's just got 1,500 common phrases, and this one is for travel. It says everyday use and travel, but it does have things. But once again, I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation, as this one does not have a CD, and I can get close with the romanization, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about like getting a friend to like one of my Chinese friends to FaceTime with me and let me just read things out of the book and then tell me what my pronunciation is like, so that I can at least figure things out for those. And with the Chinese, I am using Lingo Deer as well, which is a great resource so far. I will go into that more in another video after I have explored it. So I want to talk about the last language, which is Japanese. I do not have a lot of resources for Japanese. I do have flashcards that a friend of mine who is Japanese made for me, but I can't seem to find them at this moment. But I literally had them like a week ago. I would show you those, but I don't know where they are right now. And that's how I've been learning hiragana and katakana. But I also have a workbook on the way for hiragana and katakana, because I want to master those before I try throwing in the Chinese kanji, like the kanji with the Japanese is hard, man. All the languages I'm learning are difficult. What happens when you're trying to learn 4 languages with different character structures? But anyways, this is what I have for Japanese. This is a 15-minute Japanese learn in just 12 weeks, and I got this a long time ago, but never particularly used it. My computer just made noises at me. Hello. I got this a really long time ago at Barnes & Noble, but I just never got around to using it. I kind of lost. I got it before I traveled to Japan, but then ended up just kind of, I got a phrase book instead, and I have since gotten rid of that phrase book because I did not particularly like it, but ended up using that instead, trying to learn some Japanese before I went to Japan. And then when I came back from Japan, I was home for like 4 weeks, and then I left for a semester in Korea. So I kind of pushed learning Japanese to the back of my head, but recently have just found another love for it and another interest in it, and so I pulled this back out, and I have my handy dandy CD player in my closet, and so I'm really hoping to get some really good use out of this, as well as the workbook that is on the way. So those are the 4 languages that I'm currently learning and how I'm personally going about it. I'm happy to do some, I'm sorry, I gotta fix my shirt. I am happy to do some self-study videos. Those would be great fun for me. Also would help me stay focused and study the languages that I want to be studying. It's been great fun. When you're studying a language, you also get to have a whole new inside look on the culture of a country and how the language connects with the culture, and it's just a really, really cool experience. So if you're thinking about learning a language, I highly suggest doing it. Jump at it, don't push it aside. And if you're trying to learn a language in a school and something's just not connecting with you, maybe it be the teacher or the style of learning, don't shove it off like I did. I was like, God, I'm never going to be able to learn a language, da da da. And then I was like, well, maybe, because I took French in high school and German in college, and I was like, well, maybe those two languages just aren't for me, or maybe I just didn't have enough of an interest at the time. I would love to go back and learn some more German because my grandfather spoke German, but I don't know, there's no like desire like to learn it, or personal interest. I think it'd be cool because my grandpa did it. So maybe one day I'll go back and learn that, and maybe one day I'll learn Spanish because my younger sister speaks Spanish. But those are all future possibilities. But right now I'm happy with the 4 languages that I am learning and the resources that I am using to do that. I will do a review soon on Lingo Deer, as I have not explored it enough to say I absolutely love it or I don't like it. And I will link all of the resources that I use, as well as the Instagrams that I follow and the YouTuber that I was talking about earlier. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe and like this video and share it. I hope this is some guidance in language learning for you. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or concerns, or anything going on in your life that you want to share, please leave those in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. That's it. Bye!